Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Peter Abraham. I am a second career registered nurse with extensive hospice and palliative care experience. I'm also an end-of-life doula. And if you're new to this channel, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to visit. In this channel, we talk about death and dying because death should not be a mystery, and discussions about death shouldn't be covered up. It should not be a stigma. After all, each and every one of us is going to die. So we should understand, what does that process look like, and to be able to face death without fear, without anxiety, or at least minimizing it as much as possible. So in this channel, we have discussions for my fellow hospice and palliative care nurses, for fellow end-of-life professionals, mainly death doulas, sometimes known as transition coaches, and also for caregivers, family members, and patients themselves. I operate CompassionCrossing.info. I publish articles every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, dealing with chronic and terminal illnesses, just to help you understand better, because my feeling is the more that we know, the less that we fear. So for today's episode, it's going to be an update on my own doula journey. So I've been a doula in one way, shape, or form, not always calling myself a doula, for about a year and a half, all unpaid, just being transparent. And so I just want to take you more through that journey. I want to pause for a moment to have you involved in what I try to do every day. What am I grateful for? I cannot pronounce the name of this lady on LinkedIn. I'm sorry, it begins with an F. And I'd have to hear the pronunciation of her first name in order to attempt to say it. But she asked a very good question about how do people in our field, whether it's hospice or palliative care or death doulas, how do we deal with people around us dying and remaining calm and collected? And for me, I shared with her there's three pillars. Three. There's my faith in Christ Jesus. There's working through forgiveness, which I've been trying to work through for the past several months, and it is hard. Every time I think I've forgiven that person or this situation or that, something comes up and it's like, did I really forgive? I'm a work in progress, but I'm also working on gratitude. And so what I'm grateful for is, I shared earlier this week that last Wednesday I had the opportunity, the wonderful privilege speaking in front of the visiting angels of Richmond, Kentucky, the director, the assistant director, and many of the caregivers there. And we all have our own opinion on how well we do. And it's very easy to say the big fish when it was that small. So I thought it went well, but you don't know until you hear back. And I was so grateful that Rhonda, the assistant director, reached out to me today saying that, she's on vacation, which is understandable why she got back to me today versus shortly thereafter, and shared, really enjoyed what I provided. What would it take for future engagements? They'd like to have me over there sometime in the future. So we're not talking next week, necessarily next month, but I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful to have had that opportunity, and I'm grateful that it was impactful enough that she wants to discuss what's my price and think about having me back. So thank you, Rhonda, and thank you for every one of the visiting angels of Richmond, Kentucky, and elsewhere. I was wearing the shirt they gave me all day yesterday. I'm so grateful for that opportunity. So in terms of moving things along, this is going to be in two parts. There's this talking head portion, and then I'm going to be attaching to this what I would call the tutorial portion, where I do want to give you some insights of different areas that I've been working on, both on the website, compassioncrossing.info, in Canva, in Microsoft Word, and so on. Before I go there, just talking about the journey. Uh, it is almost graduation time for the International Doula Life Movement for Cohort 25, for which I've had the pleasure of being a part of. I cannot speak highly enough or endorse the International Doula Life Movement enough. It has been beyond my, I can't even say beyond my expectations, because literally I didn't know what to expect. When I first went in, and I've been talking to Anna and Pam and different executives of IDLM for maybe 6 to 9 months now. I've attended different, the free webinars. Come meet us and get to know the team. And it was like, I'm already a hospice and palliative nurse. Do I really need this? I mean, after all, I'm not trying to boast, but like, I'm writing books, I've trained nurses, I've trained students. They actually reached out, and I am a now part-time instructor. But like, if I could do all of that, do I need doula school? I mean, I wrote a book on becoming a death doula. Do I need doula school? And I wasn't sure. In fact, part of the reason I wrote the book, I'm looking over at the bookshelf, in case you're wondering where I'm looking. Um, Part of the reason I wrote the book is I attended another webinar for another school that'll remain nameless, who advertises it's normally $7,997, but over the next 3 days, if you buy now, it's a low $2,997. Let's get a second mortgage of the house. And that's part of why I ended up writing the book, because, and not that you need to read a book. I mean, if you just need certification, do what I'm going to actually do this weekend, is join the national, and I will get certified from IDLM, by the way, but join the National End of Life Doula Alliance, NEDA, for $50. Wait until you're on their membership roster, 2 to 3 days. Pay $115 for their what do they call it? A micro proficiency badge. Take the test, online study guide. It's a very extensive test, and pass. Now you're certified. So, but anyway, I had the opportunity, late April. Anna Adams, the founder, invited me to come along and be a part of cohort 25. And this is just what I know it's not going to be entirely in focus. And if I bring it up to the camera, you're only going to see a small portion of the dates and so on and so forth. But from April 23rd, I came in very early May, so I had to do some catch up on my own. But April 23rd, with the last class next week, July 16th, with the graduation date to be announced. And even coming on the first few days, and I'm doing a lot of catch up because I missed the 23rd. And as I share, I've been sharing with everybody, I do my best to be transparent. I am very conservative in my values. I am very conservative. I'm fiscally conservative. I'm not. I do my best not to talk politics on this channel. I'm politically conservative. I lean libertarian. But so there were certain topics, certain classes that really pushed me emotionally in a good way. And this is hard to talk about. If we live in an echo chamber where everybody's in agreement, while iron does sharpen iron, if all you have is an echo chamber, things can get dull, that they can't be sharpened anymore. And part of the reason I got into healthcare and part of the reason I love the field of end of life is I don't have to be judgmental. And when I say I don't have to, I know you can say no one has to be, but like when I worked in the hospital setting, I started off in cardiology med surg to be very specific. A lot of the nurses that I worked with, and they're extremely good. So I'm not trying to share any of these stories to downplay or down anyone or diss anyone. But there is a tendency in the hospital setting to become jaded. The other week, I was a companion volunteer for a home patient in Richmond, and the sister was visiting from Maryland, and she's now a school nurse, and she said she gave up working in a hospital. So, and I'm using her words. The environment sucks. They suck the life out of you, and that's not direct quotes, but the suck part was part of her words. And but it's like it's so easy to become jaded because everyone around you is jaded. And it's very easy to get in the mindset of they're drug seeking and they did this to themselves. And I know I was struggling with, because I'm an educator at heart as well, that I'd be educating my patients. If you make these lifestyle choices, you won't be back, or you'll lower the risk of getting back. Because I'm not God to make promises. And yet they wouldn't listen and they'd be back. They'd be worse. And then I'd get frustrated. And I'd have to try to teach them in a way that didn't have my frustration coming out. It was really a push. And I don't want to ever, ever be jaded. I want to be gentle. My heart is my vision statement from a personal standpoint is I always want to be a gentle, loving, kind, thoughtful, compassionate person, uplifting and encouraging to anyone that I encounter. I don't want to look down on anyone. It's not my place at all, ever. So what I love about end of life care is whatever choices they made that it were in part of why they're there. Sometimes it's all accident. Sometimes they lived the best of life. They did everything right. So just to be very clear, I'm not saying if somebody's at end of life, it's their fault. I'm not saying that at all. But a lot of times a portion of their decisions, like with lung cancer, for example, smoking, COPD, smoking. Um, but a lot of times it's part of their reason for being there, part is their lifestyle choices. Well, I don't have to think about that at all because all I'm there is to keep them comfortable. I'm not there to cure or reverse, so I can't. There's no roadblocks for me to get frustrated with or to get jaded with. So getting back to IDLM, and yes, that was a circle. They had certain topics that it's like, wow. And let me give you an example, because this is part of the journey. This is part of the journey. So I had the wonderful opportunity to talk with, from a remote perspective. He's over in England, Simon Chambers. He is the primary producer and filmmaker between, I believe it's called The Film Is a Much Ado About Dying. And so here, Simon, and I talked briefly about him in some other of my episodes. He's a filmmaker. He's out in New Delhi, India, and he's making a film about traffic congestion in India. I'm using my own words, by the way. I'm using my own way of phrasing things, but the people over in India are becoming like in America from a point of view, buy. Everybody has to have a car. You got to be like the Joneses, so to speak. And so traffic is getting huge and there's no place to put the old cars and it's really creating a mess. So he was doing a documentary film. And his uncle David kept calling him, I'm dying, you have to come here. And Simon's like, well, what about the people who are living with you in England? Can't they take care of you? But after a while, he gives in. He has a loving, compassionate heart. Simon, if you ever watch this, you're a beautiful individual. You're amazing. If I ever have a chance to meet you in person, I would hug you and I mean this in the platonic sense. My classmates were laughing at me the other evening that I used the word platonic, but we live in a world. I'm not picking it, I'm not saying my classmates are in this world, but we live in the world where if you say lust, or if you say you're going to hug somebody for a certain time, or you're going to kiss them, a lot of people's minds go to darker places, and that's not me. That is not me. So I'm not talking from a perversion standpoint. I'm not talking from a lust standpoint. I'm not talking from a judge standpoint. I'm just saying that for me, it's just as brotherly love, brotherly love. And so Simon was very impactful. Now, they had Simon, IDLM had Simon on twice. Once for an interview about the film without showing the film, lots of questions about why the film was made and what lessons were learned, and then the film itself. Now, I'm sharing my point of view from a transparency perspective. This will help for any of you interested in IDLM as to where I'm coming from on my journey with this. So it was asked after the first interview with Simon, uh, what do you want the LGBT and all the other initials to get out of this film? And my point of view is this entire story, both times, this entire story is a human story. Human story. Not a specific group of people story. And I'm not trying to pick on the community that was mentioned. I want to be very clear. But to me, this was a human story. The entire world needs to see and hear. Why? Because the emotions expressed, the dying process that happened, this happens to almost like what Simon went through as a caregiver is beyond common. What grabbed the living daylights out of me and pulled me in was real life, dirty, messy emotions. Simon expressed openly, truthfully, honestly, that there was a point in time where he wanted his uncle to die. That may sound hard. That may sound horrible. But almost every caregiver that I've ever worked with, and this is very common in the various social media groups, that the caregivers will say, I'm having the life sucked out of me. Why can't they just die? And they don't mean that from a sense of murder. They're not coming from a dark place when they say that. They're coming from a place of utter exhaustion. And so Simon, and he said this in the film, I got a chance to see the film. This is part of why I fell in love from a platonic sense with Simon, because his transparency made him so authentic. And to me, as an end-of-life doula, this is for my fellow doulas, this whole episode, for anyone interested in this. Be yourself. Be authentic. When I did, and I'm going to go in circles. So when I did my presentation for the VA, there were times where I was asked things that were awkward and things that could be embarrassing. And I let myself be because I didn't have the guards up. Because literally, why? I'm not using a teleprompter, and I know you'd have to be here to see that I'm not using a teleprompter. But this is unscripted, and I do minimal editing. It's mainly when I go to connect a tutorial, I'll remove the silence from the video. Because in real life, you don't have a teleprompter and you can't edit. You have to be able to manage through. But here, the story was humanity. So I had issues with some pieces of the overall presentation because it's a human story versus a specific group story. But this is where I applaud and I am in from a point of view in love with IDLM, because even in the harder points that stretch the living daylights out of me, make me uncomfortable, get me out of my comfort zone, and in a way sharpen me, make me think things over again. It's because of how well they do it. Because they don't pigeonhole anybody. They themselves don't judge anybody. It was shortly after that first event with Simon that I had to do. I had a call, a private call, saying how, if I'm going to be a part-time instructor, because of my faith, there's certain elements that I can't do, even though I am doing my best to be respectful and show love. And so we had an open dialogue about that of here's what I'm capable of doing. Is it okay that I don't do this portion here? If I could be respectful from this point of view, not that I want to be disrespectful for the other, could I avoid the other? So because I have to live with myself at the end of the day. And it was like, yes, as long as you do, as long as we go by names and keep things on, we're good. So that's part of why I cannot speak highly enough about this journey with the International Dual Life Movement. Now, this past Wednesday evening, this is coming towards the end, we all had to work on a case study. And I didn't know this was going to happen because when it was originally discussed, it was like I thought they were going to pick the best of the best and only show a handful because these case studies could get, there was a 15-minute limit, but we have a big class. And so I didn't expect all of us to have an opportunity to present. And some of us were solo, myself and a handful of others, and some were teams. But they ended up presenting all of them. And I'm glad I started off with a full tissue box. I don't want to mention names of my classmates because I don't know to what degree they would want certain things disclosed, and I didn't seek permission, so I don't want to invade privacy. But the very first one that they showed, and I'm glad that or maybe it was the second one, first or second, I'm so glad because that was one that I was rooting that if they were going to be picking certain ones, one of my classmates showed me her case study in advance, and I cried then, and I was a sobbing idiot when I saw hers, even though I saw it once prior, because some of them were based on real life. So this person was real life, mine was real life. And I'm not, with the other ones, they were given like different choices to pick from, but this came out at the after talks where it was supposed to be 7:30 to 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. It went close to 10:30 because we were really encouraging, and this is part of going to be your encouragement if you're watching this. I know this is getting rather lengthy as I'm watching the time, but everybody approached it from a different angle. Two of the presenters did pediatrics. Um, the styles were very different. One literally did a comic book style presentation, and it was a pediatric patient, so it was very, very fitting. Another did a lot of black and white and monochrome and a flash of unexpected color here and there. And it was just amazing to see the thoughts and the emotions that went into this. And this is, again, for the International Dual Life Movement. It stretches. It stretches. If you're on this journey yourself, I can't speak high enough about the International Dual Life Movement. I had a telephone call the other day with one of my classmates who's a funeral director. And she had mentioned that, she had taken other courses by other schools, and nothing has touched IDLM for being thorough, detailed, in-depth, moving, and preparing you. And part of what I'll be showing you in the tutorial section is stuff that they encouraged me to do as part of building out the practice so I can succeed. And let me give you one story, and then we're going to go into the tutorial section. And once we get into the tutorial section, so that you're aware, there won't be a talking head outro. When I say goodbye in that end of the tutorial, that will be the end of the video. But one of my classmates, and if you're watching this, you will know that it's you that I'm bragging about. But she shared a story, and there's only two guys in our class in cohort 25. But she shared a story that she was at one of her, I believe she worked several part-time jobs. I could be wrong. Comment below or get with me on the movement if you don't want to reveal yourself on YouTube, which is fine. But she's working, and this couple comes in, and the one spouse is on oxygen and really having trouble. Now, she's not in doula mode at the time, but she has her doula brain working, and that's part of the story. We're always wearing our doula brain, I should say, or having it function. So while she's at work, she sees this couple come in, and the spouse, one of the spouses, is having severe trouble breathing. They're both wearing oxygen. And she helps them in and sees the gentleman struggling worse, and can tell with belly breathing and other items that she learned from what IDLM teaches, because they are extremely thorough, that this gentleman needed more compassion and time before actually doing the business side of why they came to that practice there. And it wasn't the doula practice, to be clear. So she helped them and spent time with them, but upon seeing them out when everything was finished, she introduced herself. She has her own doula practice, and this was ethical in the setting that she was in, and gave her number to the wife, that she could help both of them if they need assistance in terms of somebody on site at home. And she might end up getting two clients out of being aware and being involved. And where I'll lead off, I said one story. I didn't mean to forget about this one, because I do have two. But Wednesday morning, my wife and I were finalizing our own advanced planning that was rather intense, because it went beyond the standard documentation for what we want to put in place. And here, the lawyer that was putting together all the paperwork said that she saw a car from a death doula from Lexington. So Lexington's in Fayette County. I'm still learning the counties here in Kentucky. I'm in Madison. And she asked some questions about what I'm doing. Now, in our initial meetings, I didn't have a business card. So I was able to hand her, here's my business card. I don't know how long that's going to take to focus in. And so there's my business card. And gave her one, and another one to the paralegal. And oh, by the way, here's one for your partner. And just in conversing and freely answering her questions, because she asked, what's better, dying at home or dying at a facility? And so I shared the pros and the cons, and why one versus the other might be more appealing, with the caveat for the pressure that's put on the family. She said, Peter, she gets to go to different assisted, she said, Peter, I get to go to a distant assisted living nursing facilities throughout Madison County, and sometimes I'm called to speak. Would you like to come along? Maybe you could speak at one or more. And it's like, yes, why not? Go where the door's open. Go in. As scary as it can be. Out of your comfort zone. We just talked with the IDLM where there were certain classes that were out of my comfort zone as a Christian, as a conservative. It's out of my comfort zone. But by walking the walk versus running away and hiding, growth, opportunity. So I'm going to skip into the tutorial section, and again, there won't be a formal outro. When you get the end of the tutorial, that will be the outro. I'll identify that when the time comes. Thank you for watching so far. And before I forget, if these are things that you like, hit the like button. If you want more content like this, please subscribe and hit the bell notification. It does help my small channel. Thank you so much. And let's continue. So we're going to be going over a couple areas in terms of giving you an update of where the doula practice is as it relates to Madison County, Kentucky. In previous episodes I've shared, I've been doing this for about a year and a half. I had a customer from India. I had a customer, New York, Texas, and there was, I believe, a fourth place, but that loses, my memory is foggy on that one. So in terms of moving forward for Madison County, I've been working on the home page and different areas of the website. You could see here I shouldn't say the home page, the About Us page, updated 59 minutes ago. Just walking through how to make it more palatable for visitors to the site to see what I'm doing, because there's kind of phrase, unlike traditional end-of-life doulas where all you're doing is the doula business, for lack of better words, I am both an end-of-life doula and operating an registered nurse concierge service as well. So the registered nurse concierge service allows me to do like medication review and reconciliation. And when we get to the Microsoft Word document, it's not yet on the website, I will be offering like wound care, for example. I could do that as part of and wellness checks. I could do that as part of the registered nurse concierge service. And then also, as part of the registered nurse concierge service, there's the staff development side, which I worked with the Visiting Angels of Richmond, Kentucky, but with the full transparency that the first time was free, and then I shared that they reached out. If we hire you back, what would that picture look like in terms of paying? So I've been just really working through, like I went from just today, hospice and palliative care, instead of calling it education, which it is, consulting might be a better way to word versus education, because I'm providing guidance as to what to pick and so on. And so like if I pop into that page, that's where I'm even here changing what is the title. So understanding your care options and really diving into what does this look like? Going over, what's hospice care? How do I get involved in helping them? And this walks through the process, and you'll see some of this a little bit more when we get to the Word document, except this is a little bit more detailed. Word document, I'm trying to be a little bit more concise, and you can laugh at me for how concise Peter is, and that's fine. And for every page, the booking a call, but that's out there. I've been working through, I use the Blocksy, BLOCKYS theme with WordPress, and I really like the mega menu that I could put in little icons for just breathe the menu to life. And so tried to do that with the different portions of it. And like with medication review and going over that, and even like giving um, what would that actually look like for the family if they were to hire me for that. Moving on, prices listed in Doula I have not updated. So you're going to see some prices that when we get to the Word document that I'll show you in a little bit. The prices in the Word document are from today. Today is Thursday, July 10th, 2025 at the time of this filming. This video will go out on Friday, July 11th. So these prices are from several weeks ago. But this is Doula. One of the benefits of the International Dual Life Movement, IDLM, is they have partnerships with a lot of different agencies out there. So as part of the partnership, I get to, as do my fellow cohort 25 classmates and all the previous 24 cohorts, or whenever they started the partnership, 6 months free before we start paying out any money. And so Delato is just a full service, operate your business from this software. I don't know, I'm leaning towards this is what I use. I have to get towards the final piece. I'm still working on setting up Stripe to see if I can connect this to Stripe. We'll see. But I just wanted to go over, the services, the packages. Again, these are going to be serious subject to change. You'll see once we get to the Word document. I do want to stop in briefly with Canva. I've been the past 2 weeks. Oh my word! I have created so much in Canva. All I could say is, if you haven't gathered from previous videos, I can't speak highly enough. I don't even know what word would use because I don't want to use adore or love because I like to leave that to God, give that to God. But it's so helpful. By the way, when I do my business cards next, so that you're aware, and I do have my business card up, I made a business decision that's subject to change. We'll see, because I have about 70 to 80 cards left out of the 100 batch, and I'm frugal, so I don't know if I'll wait until most of them are gone. But on the card that I showed you earlier, it has Life Transition Support Guide. Mouthful. I'm shortening it to Life Transition Coach. Also, the website uses the Georgia font, so I made a decision. I'm going to be uniform and use fonts the same. Like, I'm going to follow my own advice that I have in the business growth book and so on. I also changed this instead of the QR code. Oh, please don't tell me that's a boo-boo. Give me a second, unlock the page. I'm glad I came in. So let me go here to about, and put the business card. Why is it doing that one? Okay, it was right. Never mind. I don't know if leave it to me to find something that is not going to work at the time of filming. But I also made a decision because over the past several weeks, I've been going, oh, I could offer this service. I need to tweak that service. So on the business cards, the original business cards, I listed out each of the services. And rather than I need more business cards because the service offerings changes, or what if I stop offering that? What if I can't offer that? What if I offer it and bomb and I can't fix it? So let me work through what could I put there that's going to really share what this business is about. So here, there's a question mark. Most people don't know what an EOLD is, end of life doula. So people, what's an EOLD? I know what a BSN is, or they might know. I know what an RN, but I don't know what a life transition coach is, and I don't know of an EOLD. So those that when I business for breakfast and networking, talking points, and then we get to the back of the card, instead of listing my services, what's the transformation that I'm hoping for every client to receive from me in one way, shape, or form? Well, I'm transforming their fears, was my hope, into peace during life's biggest changes. Expert guidance for families facing illness and loss. Reach out, we're here. And so that's the business card. I created some letterhead. I don't know if I'm going to be ordering that from Canva or not. I shared in a previous episode of using Perplexity use case for the trifold, but guess what? I still use Perplexity. That doesn't change. But I went in here after just review the ordering of the panels. How is this going to lead in? And just talking to Mallory, another death doula, and others who are saying that very similar to real estate, not that we're selling land, so to speak. I'm going to phrase this. I'm iffy, picture, no picture. I'd rather have a logo. I'm missing teeth. This is a younger picture. Granted, I was in my 50s, but yeah, let me do this because this is a personal business. It's going to be me delivering the service. Shouldn't people, if they're handed my brochure and I show up and they've not seen me before, oh, that's you. I work through this. You'll see with the coach again. And since we're talking my Madison County journey, your local expert in Madison County. As of this filming right now, there's only one. And I'm open if other people come in. This is a collaboration, not a competition. Um, the QR code again, and the process. And then here, I also, if you remember, if you pull up the perplexity case study, I made this with graphic, with text. One of the beauties this is let's work together. Notice this. I'm going to bring that in. That's the actual wording in the font. It's one graphic. So I went in and used the edit feature and literally erased the center and put in my own text. See, that's the own text. And I can put the font, the size, and everything else. So the more you work with Perplexity, you're gonna like between their apps and other things, you get like, gee, I can make this work. And so that's the brochure for what to expect. I ended up having it open twice. Mentioned about the letterhead. Not sure if I'm going to go forward with that. The other thing that I've been doing is for each of the pages on the website, I went in and created a featured image. And again, giving a kudos to Perplexity. And yeah, some of these images are AI. So that's one AI agent that made that picture. And then for this picture here, um, uh, those of you who know me personally, and you may guess from my videos, I am autistic, high functioning, undiagnosed. Um, I should know better not to scream at TVs, computers, and don't anthropomorphize. But I was trying to have AI develop this, and let me bring over what I got. This is what I got. Okay, understanding illness progression, and oh my word, is that English? Communication in hospice, is that English? Illness progression repeated. I got all this like on the, I'm sorry, it's not repeated. It's I'm seeing it over my own work. But let me go over here. So it's like literally this is unbearable. And I was literally going back and forth. I need English. I need English. And it all started because I was using this. It's like they came up with this one first. It's like, that's gorgeous. Oops. Don't want to take anything over. This is gorgeous. I could really use this. Yeah, I colors, yeah, but the wording, this is good. What was missing is right, like my camera doesn't show you where my finger's pointing, but like right here in the inner wheel, I just wanted to have a spoke that said comfort, one word. And so I'm saying, can you please put comfort right here, please? And I got myself worked up in near tears in a panic attack. Those who suffer from autism may understand that um, we're not always in the control that we'd like to be. I'm broken, being honest. So, but here, the plus side is I finally figure, you know what? I like the shape of it. I like the heart. I like the icons. I like the what we teach. I just don't like this. So let me go in and use the edit and the eraser and put in my own words. Ta-da! Yay! I'm happy. And so I'm going in and making those pages. Same way with the booking call for here. That was another AI generated one where they had in the lower right hand corner a mess. And I actually gave it my picture, and it wasn't me. It came up with this, by the way. This was the original. Notice the compassion crossing. Compassion's okay. That's wrong. And this is wrong. And that's a better looking person, but it's not me. Uh, but that's the beauty of Canva is you can take something that was created somewhere else and make it work for yourself. Like to give you an example while we're here, and what I shouldn't say while we're here, let me pull up another screen. I'm going to get to a Word document eventually. Thank you for bearing with me. But I wanted to do one on medication reconciliation. And why is that not? Oh, here we go. So I wanted to do one on medication safety, medication review for safety. Now you see this image here, the pill bottle, and then the tablets in a little plastic container. Well, I'm looking like, what could I represent that wasn't used 10 million times early? And what did I get? That's the original image. So I'm searching, medication review, medication reconciliation. This right here is the original image. That's the pill bottle, and that's the pill package. I ended up making my own this because I did try pulling it off. That part didn't work well, so I ended up, I'll show you how I made that in a moment. But I went into edit and I did magic grab. Let me grab the pill bottle. I went into edit and let me grab this. And because I didn't want it, I didn't want the pill bottle and then the tablets. I wanted the tablets and the pill bottle. So that's one of the pluses for Canva. And then as it relates here, I ended up using, let me go to layers and let me ungroup that. So I ended up, and let me ungroup that. So I ended up doing an element where I created a square and then I curved it with the curve element. Yeah, I went with the curve element, and then I put in medication safety. Then I grouped them in the same way with if you wanted everything grouped together, I'm going to group everything together. But Canva just makes it so easy to build things, and that's where this continuing education. And just a heads up, just a heads up, a promo piece. July 24th, it's going to be the Google Meet. July 24th. I'm hoping the date doesn't change. I'm still working with Anna and Robin at the International Doula Life Movement. But I've put together a rather comprehensive 60-minute continuing education class. Now, if you're a nurse, there's no nursing continuing education credits. I'm not there yet. But this is going to be how do you, as an end-of-life professional, know that this loved one with any type of dementia is a fit for hospice? What are the clues? And how do you talk about that? And when we say dementia, what does that even mean? Because there's actually 13 types. The progression patterns. And when you're talking to loved ones with dementia, what's the best way to talk to them? And so we go over validation therapy. So it's jam-packed. It's about 45 minutes of presentation, 15 minutes of Q&A. Jam-packed presentation in conjunction, myself in conjunction with the International Doula Life Movement. This will be a ticketed event, meaning that you'll have to pay, most likely. I don't know if I can't control on the IDLM side. I'm not that far up, but that event will be, oops, sorry, that event will be out there. So let me go to my Word document. We're coming to a landing. Just give me a few more minutes of your time. So I showed as part of this, getting to this Word document, the lotto and the pricing. And with the perplexity use cases, I mentioned pricing draft mode. Well, right now I'm going through a project that goes over what's involved. Like if I wanted to look at each service that I'm offering, how does the client come on board? How does the relationship work? What's the deliverables for how much money? And as part of this, and I'm not there yet, when does the contract end? Depending on the service offer. Now, death is usually the last, but I'm still working through some pieces where, like, can I help the family with phone calls, paperwork, and other factors? Still don't know there. But advanced care, well, let me start off here. So this is why I've been really, really hard pressed on the pricing, because my passion, my vision statement is I do want to have a nonprofit organization at one point in time. I have the name picked out, subject to change in case I go by then. Somebody else have it. Can I still use that name or not? I don't know. God's in control. But my goal is that if somebody can desperately use what I have to offer, and I can give it, I'm in a position of giving it, I don't want to say to them, I'm going to be very blunt. I don't want to say, I'm a capitalist. This is my price. I'm sorry. I don't want to do that to anybody. If they are living in horrible conditions, they don't have a support system, and I can be of help, even if it will push me to certain edges, I want to be of help. And if I could do that for free, I will. So that's where I have here that I'm willing to negotiate towards zero based on the situation. I'm praying I don't get taken advantage of with that. And I'm trying, as I'm working through this, I was really, really trying to work on like what is going to be a fair price for those that can pay. And so right now, and please understand, even with this is in draft, but it's closer to final. We're getting closer. Um, Next week is graduation from IDLM. This weekend, I am joining NIDA, and probably next weekend taking the exam. So I'll get two certifications: a certification from IDLM. I'll be NIDA certified, and one step from there. And then I'm taking Pam Carter's advanced life planning that I'm hoping will take this offering that I'm offering now. I don't have any clients now. I'm just being transparent, but I'm hoping that takes that offering to the super level. So palliative care consultation. This is very involving. So just so that you're aware, and I don't have it in here because I'm afraid to put in hours. When I'm being transparent, when I'm using words like afraid, I'm being vulnerable. So I'm anticipating between all the phone calls, the on-site, I do intense interviews. So I actually have a book that's promoted by hospice medical directors uh, called Mastering Hospice Eligibility. It's available on Amazon. And it talks about doing an interview. Even though I'm not admitting the person to hospice, in order to help them make a decision, hospice or palliative care, I need to do the same thing that I'd be doing if I was admitting them. My own opinion. And so they're going to get that level of intense care. So the interviewing process alone will be a minimum of an hour, if not two. And then there's going to be phone calls to providers. So I'm looking at this whole process, not, and I want to be very clear, not including the 30-minute phone calls, not including the 30-minute phone calls, is 4 hours. So I'm looking at like a base rate. So anyone watching Kentucky, I went to care.com. I know I'm a specialist. Um, I went with $25 an hour because if I went to work in public health in Kentucky, they start off at 25. And I know people, but you're a nurse for how many years and blah, blah, blah. I know. And I'm not rich, but my life has never been about money. It's been about the human beings that I can help and the connections that I make. That matters more to me than being rich. I'm not, and again, I won't turn down, any offers. I ended up teaching a class this week. I helped out on another day, and Anna said, "I'm going to send you some money," and it's like it's not why I did it, but I won't turn down money. I know that's a catch-22. Legacy projects, so that you're aware, this is still I'm still typing after the comma. But medication review, this is very, very detailed. This was my hardest one to price. This is my hardest one. If you watched the use case, I shared that when I mentioned the price, and let me go back to Doula medication review, I have $250. When I shared that with my wife, she was like, "That's too expensive." It takes a lot of time. There was somebody in the hospice and end of life group who this morning shared that they're on 61 pills. I've never had anyone take that many, ever. I've had 26. I had a patient with 26. But it's intense because for every single med, and you're talking routine meds, you're talking as needed meds. So every med that they could potentially take, you're putting it through a blender, so to speak. You're looking it up in the stop fail. You're looking up start stop. The stop start is European. It does have its place. I would start here, go here, and here. So it would be looking at all three. And there's a potential for calling providers and the pharmacists, because if any of you have been nurses, or maybe you worked around people that have the original pill bottles, or there's handwriting because they lost the bottle. It's like, what is this original prescription? I can't even make this out. So there's phone calls involved. This is a lot of time. So I figured that the best way for me to do this, and this is also part when I did put this together, that's actually when I went back up and wrote the first two paragraphs. Because what if there's a person that takes 20 pills? They're going to pay $500 to have a medication review? I believe it's worth it, me personally. Granted, I'm biased because I'm the one doing it, but I want to give them the potential to say, I can't afford that much. So I felt that the safest way to do this is $25 per medication. That way, if they only have one, it's because it does take more than an hour to look through all. But to me, they get a lot of value, and then two follow-up calls. And one thing to be very clear for anyone watching this I have to be crystal clear in terms of disclaimers and everything else. I am not giving medical orders. I am not a doctor. I'm giving recommendations after careful thought, situation background assessment recommendations. I'm giving very carefully planned out recommendations that will be in typewritten, because they don't want to read my handwriting, typewritten format for the power of attorney, patient, doctor to go, patient, power of attorney, family member, caregiver to go to a doctor and said, we had a nurse with palliative and hospice care background review the meds, and this is their name and telephone number and contact information, blah, blah, blah. They're recommending these changes, which might be to adjust the frequency, the dose, to stop, to taper off, add new ones. They're the ones actually going through, not me. Now, if they want me to make the phone calls, that would be an addendum where I would charge them extra beyond what this is involved. But I would be doing follow-up calls 15 days after I give them the handout or email, and then 45 days after the 15-day call. So that's 2 months worth of coverage. And the reason being is to follow up. Did you get the call? Do you need me to make the call for you? How are you doing especially if you're off the meds? And this is something that I may end up doing a third, to have 90 days. I'm still working through that. I'm trying not to give away the kitchen sink in my desire to help and serve others. And then this is going to be where I'm going to end, because these are still I'm still working through that. But when Rhonda reached out, and I'm like, what do I do here? And I do love my wife dearly. She suggested it should be no less than $100 for doing an hour presentation. And I know people who would charge anywhere from $300 to $500. I mean, by the end of the day, they had five customized handouts. Now, when I say customized, they did have my logo on it for transparency, except for one that in order to print it out on one page, it couldn't fit the logo. And it mattered for their usability more than my marketing. But they got a lot out of what I put into this. So they got handouts for the day of the presentation. I gave them handouts that might supplement, and then they have access because I did the YouTube video for anyone who couldn't attend. I did a YouTube video for follow-up questions and answers. So they got a lot. And keep in mind, the first session that I did was free. So my wife has a point. I should charge at least $100. And there might be viewers, and please comment below. I get lonely. I don't mind talking to people. So here, I understand some people could say you could charge $500 because it's not just the hour that was there, it's the time putting into developing everything, developing the handouts, doing all the follow-up. There's a lot that goes into this. But getting back to my desire to serve the local community. And here, like for example, with the Visiting Angels of Richmond, Kentucky, they paid each of the caregivers who came to get that education. So imagine they'd be paying me and they're paying their caregivers. So I'm trying to keep that in mind as I'm working through my pricing. So that's where I'm at for now. And then I'm still working through all this. I mentioned these here, here that's part of the RN concierge service. So before I end, just in terms of encouragement, because some of you watching this, you too are either considering to becoming an end-of-life doula, or you might be one of my cohort 25, or maybe you're going to be in cohort 26 later on this year, or maybe going to another school. You can do this. If this is where your heart is, don't give up. Don't give up. Collaborate. There's people like me. When I asked Mallory in the one doula group on Facebook, would you mind sharing with me your brochure that you give to seniors? She willingly, and I didn't know she'd give it. I said, if you can't share with me the brochure, can you at least share with me like the font and the general layout, like the mechanics? Because I'm a detail, like, these are the three outer panels, and you know do this in one without giving the words, basically outline format. She gave the whole thing. And what I'm finding out in our community at large is that we're in a group of people that help one another succeed. So if you're doing this and you're like, gee, how do I handle this? Or I have this patient that is going on with this, and I'm just not sure what to do, and you want to build your own reputation, number one, none of us can do it all. There's going to be people I cannot serve. As much as I reconciled a lot of things with Simon Chambers and that whole endeavor in certain classes, there are certain areas that I know while my heart would be open for serving, chances are high they would be the ones saying, Peter, we can't have you. It's not that I couldn't do it. I wouldn't discriminate. This wouldn't be like the cake baker out in Oregon where it's like, no, I can't serve under these conditions. I can serve, but there's certain things I could not do. I'll be blunt in terms of full transparency. And I beg of you, don't hate me for what I'm about to say, because I don't hate you. I love you platonically. I cannot, from my faith perspective, will not use pronouns other than he and she tied to the biological gender. And I don't say that to offend. I don't hate the person asking. I just come from a faith point of view. And I don't want to get into an argument for what I'm about to say next, but I also come from a scientific point of view. And the person who trained me in this endeavor, who I endorsed in my book, Crucial End-of-Life Conversations, Professor Rhonda Scott Forsch, if I'm not killing the pronunciation of her last name, she dealt with anyone who is in this broad category. And I don't even want to mention more because I'm not trying to be divisive. I would just say for me, because they may want somebody that you have to use you have to use my pronouns or you can't be my person. And I'd be like, as much as I'd love to be there for you, and I'll offer, free advice and consultation as I'm able, I can't comply in that area because of my faith. So they probably wouldn't want me. So that would allow me to refer to somebody who could. And that's why I love collaboration. So if you're out there and you're new to this and you're like, maybe you need help with a medication question. Again, keep in mind, I'm not a doctor and I can't prescribe or de-prescribe, but I can give advice subject to those disclaimers. And sometimes that advice is limited to, FDA, CDC, blah, blah, blah. But it's one step at a time. So believe in yourself, take a step of faith, and get out there. And if you have any questions, Peter, I wasn't sure about this. Peter, what did you mean about that? Peter, can you elaborate on this? I don't mind sharing to the degree that I'm able. I do my best to be transparent in all things. I thank you for your time. Take care and God bless.